Scotland, the land of ancient legends, thick accents and weather moodier than me after a vet visit. Emma decided we had to visit some historically significant haunted castle deep in the Highlands. Because nothing screams relaxing vacation like wandering through a cold, spooky rock pile where everyone died badly. Great. Either we're heading for a tourist trap or a horror movie. Knowing our luck, both. Arrival at the castle. The road twisted through rugged hills and ancient forests that looked like they had opinions about us being there. Emma drove the rolling den with determined optimism, while I clung to the dashboard like a barnacle on a sinking ship. "We're almost there, Fluffy," she chirped. I narrowed my eyes at the crumbling castle on the horizon. Its jagged towers clawed at the sky like skeletal fingers. Thunder rolled dramatically in the distance. Perfect. The castle gates groaned open with a sound like an old man getting out of bed after a 40-year nap, stiff, creaky, and full of regret. Well, this must be Dracula's summer home, Scottish edition, I thought. Maybe if we're lucky, he's on vacation, or allergic to tourists. Emma gasped with delight. "Isn't this incredible, Fluffy?" I flicked my tail dismissively. "Sure, if you're into spooky architecture and potential vampire encounters." The castle tour, ghostly tales and Fluffy's skepticism. The castle was a maze of chilly stone hallways, spiraling staircases and faded tapestries featuring sour-faced ancestors who looked like they'd lost a centuries-long staring contest. The guide spun tales of vengeful spirits, cursed treasures, and Lady Morag, the tragic ghost trapped in the West Wing, forever searching for her lost love, or maybe just the Wi-Fi signal. Lady Morag's probably just sick of tourists, I thought, slinking behind the group with practiced stealth. We entered the great hall, where dusty banners drooped like forgotten hopes. The guide lowered his voice. "On stormy nights, they say you can still hear her cry for what was lost." Right on cue, a distant wail echoed through the ancient halls. Emma shivered in gleeful terror. I flattened my ears. Wind. It's called wind. The cursed dining room, tour extension. As the tour continued, Emma eagerly followed the guide into the old dining room. An enormous table stretched the length of the hall, surrounded by rickety wooden chairs that looked like they'd collapse if you so much as breathed near them. Here, the laird held his last feast before the Great Fire of 1782, the guide announced gravely. Legend says the ghosts of the banquet still linger, waiting for the final toast. Emma practically vibrated with excitement, snapping photos from every angle. I hopped onto the dusty table, sniffing around. If these ghosts are still here, they're probably waiting for the check. Suddenly, one of the rickety chairs creaked and wobbled, making Emma jump. She gasped, clutching her camera. "Did you hear that?" I watched the chair sway slowly back into place, unimpressed. Yes, gravity. Fluffy versus the rat. While Emma admired some rust-covered medieval weaponry, humans are weird, I caught a flash of movement from the corner of my eye, a fat, smug-looking rat scurrying along the baseboard. "Oh, you're mine." I launched into full predator mode, claws out, and tore down the hallway like a furry missile. The rat zigzagged through an archway and I followed, narrowly missing a pedestal displaying an old rusty suit of armor. With one mighty leap, I almost snagged the rat, but my back paw hooked on a curtain that looked about 400 years overdue for a cleaning. The entire curtain came down in a cascade of ancient fabric, hitting the armor stand, which toppled over with a thunderous crash. Swords, shields, and centuries of misplaced dignity clattered across the stone floor like angry bowling pins. Emma came sprinting around the corner, wide-eyed. "Fluffy, what have you done?" The rat, stunned by the noise, froze just long enough for me to pounce and deliver a swift, precise bite. Victory. I turned proudly, the lifeless rat dangling from my jaws like a macabre trophy. Tail high, I strutted over to Emma and deposited the prize at her feet, like Braveheart on speed, triumphant and utterly unapologetic. Her face twisted through several emotions, shock, horror, and, briefly, admiration. "You caught it?" I sat back, chest puffed out. "You're welcome." Aftermath and reward. Thankfully, the damage wasn't as bad as expected. The curtain was easily rehung after a good dusting, and the armor was only mostly dented. The castle's grumpy manager grudgingly admitted, could have been worse. Emma, still pale from the rat gift, handed over a small damage fee while muttering something about never bringing Fluffy indoors again. The tour guide chuckled. Och, he's got more fight in him than half our staff. Consider the rat. Part of the clean-up crew. Later that evening, back in the rolling den, Emma opened a can of prime tuna, a rare treat reserved for special occasions, and placed it in my favourite dish. "All right, you earned this," she admitted, scratching behind my ears in just the right spot. I purred loudly, savouring both the tuna and the attention. Finally, proper recognition. The night's end. As the castle loomed behind us under the full moon, its jagged towers silhouetted like silent sentinels, Emma finally spoke. "I can't believe you caught that rat." I stretched luxuriously. "Of course I did," she sighed. "At least this trip wasn't boring." I smirked inwardly, my eyes fixed on the distant castle. Its ancient halls felt just a little less eerie now, probably because I was the scariest thing to haunt them tonight. Closing reflection. Inside the rolling den, Emma sat with her travel notebook, flipping through handwritten bucket list entries, her pen tapped thoughtfully against her chin. "Edinburgh's next," she mused aloud. "I don't love big cities after Newcastle, but it's Scotland." I twitched an ear, unimpressed. "More humans, more chaos." She scribbled something in her notebook and added, "Then it's Norway, and someday back to France. There's still so much left on my list." She smiled faintly, lost in thought. Her bucket list seemed as endless as the winding roads we travelled. I curled up on the cosiest blanket, letting out a deep, satisfied purr. Humans were strange, always chasing lists and landmarks. Me? I already conquered a castle and a rat. What more was there? Scotland, where the legends are real, the artifacts are fragile, and humans should really invest in better curtain rods. Oh, and if there's something scurrying in the dark, just send me.